When the great film star Greta Garbo withdrew from public life, she was quoted as saying, "I want to be alone." One of the 20th century's most respected novelists says even less. Many of his fans don't even know what he looks like. CNN's Charles Feldman tries to pierce the mystery of Thomas Pynchon.
In 1953, Dwight Eisenhower was in the White House. Thomas Pynchon was a senior at Oyster Bay High on Long Island, New York. Today, his fifth novel is on the New York and Los Angeles Times bestsellers lists. It is thick with words and complexity. Its mere publication was considered a stellar literary event.
I would rate Thomas Pynchon, as do most critics these days, right at the very top.
While Pynchon's books can be found side by side with other works of popular fiction, you won't find Pynchon the author anywhere. The last known photographs of Pynchon date all the way back to the early 50s.
No one had seen this man ever. No reporter had found him in, I think, something like 40 years.
In fact, until Nancy Jo Sales of New York Magazine tracked Pynchon down to a Manhattan neighborhood last year, some fans wondered whether Pynchon even existed. In cyberspace, Pynchon is a popular topic of discussion. Until the arrest last year of Theodore Kaczynski, some fans thought Pynchon was the Unabomber. Others speculated he was actually several people writing under a pseudonym.
I think the mystery helps a lot. The fact that that creates its own publicity, because nobody knows who he is, so people talk about who he might be.
But Pynchon has been somewhat coy and even playful about his anonymity.
Did you happen to see a guy come in my office? He quit today. A little white hair, 60-ish.
When the now canceled John Larroquette TV show started making highbrow references to Pynchon, the writer apparently started making corrections.
He wrote back through his agent making suggestions. So in a very oblique way, Thomas Pynchon helped rewrite that script.
In the early 1980s, a newspaper in a small Northern California town started getting letters from a writer called Wanda Tanaski, letters widely believed by literary scholars to have been written by Thomas Pynchon and now collected in book form.
He takes some pretty hard swipes at other powerful literary figures, including Alice Walker, John Leonard, the critic. So it would be difficult for him to come forward and say, well, I wrote these letters, and then have to explain himself.
He's the Greta Garbo of literature, and this fascinates quite a few readers. Some of them have tried to seek him out. Others suspect that he's a kind of a Wizard of Oz type character behind the scenes who has access to all sorts of special knowledge.
Because of the mythology around him, fans may be disappointed to learn that Pynchon leads a somewhat conventional life in New York City.
He shops at neighborhood stores, he lunches with other writers, he spends weekends in the countryside with his family.
In fact, should you pass the now 60-year-old author on a busy Manhattan sidewalk, you wouldn't even know it. To prove the point, CNN caught up with Pynchon, and he is among the people you have been looking at. At Pynchon's request, and after much debate, CNN has opted not to point him out in the crowd. Pynchon told CNN by phone, in a rare public comment, "Let me be unambiguous. I prefer not to be photographed." And as for the notion that he is a recluse, Pynchon told us, and we quote, "My belief is that recluse is a code word generated by journalists, meaning doesn't like to talk to reporters." As a writer, Pynchon has total control over his fictional world. But should that control extend beyond the printed page? So far, for the most part, it has. Charles Feldman, CNN, Los Angeles.
If you're still looking, still wondering why you couldn't see Thomas Pynchon in this piece, maybe you'd like to see it again. It'll be on again at 1 o'clock this morning Eastern Time. Look again for the mystery.